Guys, so good morning, everybody. Welcome to March's book club, and yes, an interesting book. This one, and not your run-of-the-mill. I wasn't going to do it, and then I thought, oh, perhaps I will. And then I started reading it, and I thought, oh dear, what have I done? But there were certain points in it that I thought, yeah, this is definitely the right thing to do. So I hope you all feel the same. There's enough business-related items in it to keep the interest. I know it's not always a sort of an easy, straightforward read, but I'm really sort of looking forward to seeing what you guys make of it. You know, what you did pull out. As I said at the end of last one, what we'll do is, because there's a lot of chapters in there's a lot of information. Some of it is difficult to relate to business. I found, but I did ask you to sort of try and find 5 key areas that you thought for you related to business or for you and life, etc. And then we might sort of dip in and out of the book rather than go from front to back. So if you've got these sort of areas that you that stood out for you, that would be great. If not, I've got a few slides that we can hopefully stimulate some conversation around. So before we get into things, this is really the purpose of book club. Ensure that continual personal development. Give us a sort of a bit of a purpose to read a book and a bit of a deadline, because often books get started and then left, and months go past. And just to build this community of like-minded people that like reading and talking about what they've learned. So this is our book for the month, The Art of War. Now, there is the original book. The original text has been converted a number of times. Anthony Cummins' sort of approach is more sort of, rather than just a literal translation, it's more about an understanding of really what Sun Tzu was trying to get at. And obviously it was written 2,000 years ago, so trying to bring it into a bit of the modern way. This is a little bit about Anthony Cummins. Written a number of books, a lot about sort of ninjas. I think that's how he got into it, the ninja way, and has a team of people that are doing this research and doing the translations. So yeah, quite an interesting guy of what he's able to do, what he's been doing. So these are our 13 chapters, 13 scrolls as he calls them, and we can sort of say, well, I think we'll sort of dip in and out of them as we go. And so I know Damien's sort of had other things. Has everybody read the whole book? Anybody sort of got halfway through? Everyone read the whole book? Yeah, pretty much. Okay, cool, good. So
listen to it rather than read it.
Listen to it.
Means, okay. Yes, which means I may not know all of the lesson numbers because it was hard to keep track of them when you're listening to it.
Okay, but you've got some points down of the areas. So okay, well let's start with Ranjit then. So what were your sort of top 5 or so points that you brought out? If you can remember the chapter, we can sort of you can turn to it in the book. If not, I'll turn to it on my my slides here.
Of course, I think the main themes that stood out, or the main parallels, were that a business owner is a general of sorts, and the general has certain responsibilities and certain aims and objectives, and needs to have everybody all his ducks in a row to meet those objectives. So for me, it was more about what I was able to draw from the book was about loyalty of troops and such like. So lesson 168, which was gain the loyalty of your troops, give them time to I'll just turn to it. It was give them time to settle in, but sorry, bear with me, 168. Yeah, get them to buy into your system as well, and establish clear frameworks. So much like a business owner would.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, so
and there's quite a few chapters that are quite similar in that have a similar, or lessons have a similar vein to that.
Yeah, I did find that there was a fair reasonable amount of repetition that reinforcing things, you know, essence of a good leader, essence of a bad leader. But it was, it's, and often, you know, in books you've got to reinforce those points all the way through it. So and it's that sort of that weak, you know, the picture there was of a chain, you know, it's only as strong as the weakest link.
Yes.
So form bonds through shared experiences, work and live close to your troops, share their activities, form goals together, encourage them, you know, while maintaining a clear line between leader and follower. So it's not an easy thing to do, you know, it's that be close enough to make them feel part, but be distant enough to for them to see you as, you know, as you said, as the general, as the leader. And a lot of clients I've dealt with over the years have really struggled with that one. Certainly where you build up, and those first people that have been with you for a number of years treat you as their friends, and you know, you do personal stuff together, and then as you grow you have to become a little bit more distant because you can't do that to everybody. Good, yeah, I like that one, Angie. So do you want to do, let's do a couple each, and then we'll move around, and we'll come back and do a couple more. So what was one of your next ones?
Yeah, so lesson 59, which was think and plan many moves ahead, and separating, let's just go there, 59. Yeah, think and plan many moves ahead, and separate problems into parts. Often things can get very overwhelming, or issues can be overwhelming, but the direction here is to separate those issues into smaller, manageable chunks, and then work your way through. And I liked what they were saying about that basic achievements should not be mistaken for excellence. You know, seeing the sun and the moon is not a demonstration of good observation. I quite like that. Or hearing thunder is not a good demonstration of hearing.
Good hearing, yeah.
So,
I think that was, there was another chapter that was brought up that, you know, we're seeing clear victory being victorious in a one-sided battle is not a demonstration of excellent strategy. And I see that quite a bit in business, that, you know, people, I've done really well, and you know, I'm here, and I've, you know, become a multi-millionaire, you know, and you look and think, well, yeah, actually you were just lucky. You know, you haven't done much to achieve that. You know, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but you can sort of celebrate too early and think that you're bigger and better than you actually are. So it's having that sense of realism, keep your feet on the ground, and look to why success happens. There's a reason why failure happens. So there's a flip. So often we beat ourselves up a lot because we didn't achieve, but we've performed really well. And other times we succeed and we haven't really put any effort into it.
Yeah, you succeed without knowing why you're succeeding, and that's always an issue, because you can't replicate that, or you can't, unless you break that down into parts. You can't unless you can post-mortem why you've been particularly successful, then it's meaningless.
Yeah,
because it can't be replicated. Yeah,
that's a really good way to see it. You know, can you replicate success, and can you avoid replication of failure? If you know you can do that, then I think then you can. It's almost like treat sort of success and failure with the same approach. You know.
Yeah.
I think that's the real key to mastery of something. Good, brilliant. Well, thanks. So that's 168 and 59. Excellent. Good. Steve, what were your two first ones that stood out for you?
Yeah, the first one I had was 51. So that was basically about the actual the qualities of the military leader, which I thought was quite good. The bit that I liked was when he said that that person has to be an expert and an innovator. So you have to kind of know your stuff, but you also have to be prepared to continually learn and improve, because obviously everything's always changing. And the other bit on that as well said you should be there on merit. So it shouldn't be a case of, you know, in this instance, I suppose it'd be family ties and stuff like that, but it could be the same thing. Someone comes into a business through being the boss's son or something like that. And that shouldn't be enough just to run the business. It should be actually, the person should be passionate about the business and should know the business inside out as well.
Yeah.
So I thought that was quite a good one.
Yeah, because if you imagine back, 2,000 years, nepotism was rife everywhere. And, people were promoted into positions of power because of birthright rather than, and so back then he was saying, look, no, you never put incompetent people in command of an army. You always put your best people in there. And it's, again, the same is true in business. Often we, in the early days, we put family, friends into roles. We take the easy option, and you've always got to look, are people in those roles because of their competency rather than just because it's the easy option or there's a birthright to it. It's just that one part is really deep. If you really think about it and look in organisations that you've been in, or certainly areas where you've made mistakes in the past, you'll see that time and time again. So good, like that one. Good. What was your second one?
Yeah, the second one I had was 54. So that's the 5 principles of victory. So again, I think there's good parallels between that and, for instance, if you're launching a new business, or even if it's just you're launching a new product or a service, I think those things are pretty much universal, basically. So timing, you're entering the market at the right time.
Yeah.
Size, in terms of the size of you and your competition, making sure the preparation is good, you've put in a good plan, you're not just sort of winging it. And obviously you've got a good, the importance of leadership as well. You've got a good leader who's going to drive the business forward. So I think all those things are pretty, I think they tie well to business as well. They're pretty comparable.
Yeah. I really liked the third one, where it says, make sure you explain clearly to the troops the purpose of the war they're entering.
Sort of working towards having an objective and working towards that, basically.
And also we talk a lot in Action about vision, values and purpose, being really, what's the purpose of the business? Why is the business here? What is that bigger goal? It's not just to make profit, or to help you become rich or help you retire or help you do this. People don't come and work for you, they come and work for the bigger cause. So if they've got a connection to that bigger cause, then you're more likely to get their hearts and minds. So I think that's, I like that one. That stood out for me. And then the fifth one, be in total command and accept no interference. Decision to go to war made by political leaders, but once that decision be made, politicians should step back and leave the army to get the job done without interference. So if you look at that as the politicians being the business owners, so we decide as a business owner, we decide to go and do this, then we should let the troops, the business and the employees get on with it. Whereas how many
you could even say shareholders potentially as well, couldn't you? Shareholders to the MD, that's another way of looking at it, possibly.
Shareholders are the politicians. We decide, what we're in, and then the MD, the directors. But how many shareholders get involved with their shareholder hat on in the day-to-day running of the business? And when we own our own businesses, we have to be all three things. We're the troops fighting the battle, we're the generals commanding the troops, we're the head honcho. So what hat are we wearing at what time? And what is our purpose on the field of battle? So often we just got to come in, give some very simple instructions, and then get out of the way and let them get on with it. So, good, excellent. That was 54. Bruce, what were your top two?
Yeah, I didn't really have a top two, but I listed quite a few here.
Okay.
Let's have a look at one. Yeah, I had banish wishful thinking. That's lesson 137. Yeah, the tip there was never leave anything to chance. Plan for the worst case. Yeah, I think it sort of touches on what we were talking about earlier. Things might be going very well. Maybe you've just been lucky. So yeah, the fact that you've done really well in the past, it's not necessarily a sign of future success. But yeah, I think in terms of wishful thinking, it's if you always got your fingers crossed and you're hoping for certain situations to arise, and perhaps you've been lucky and you've had a string of those, and you think, oh yeah, it's going really well, I'm doing the right stuff. Well, actually, that's not great. You have just been lucky, and I think really it's important, and there's something we need to do more of, is looking at what can go wrong. Considering looking at the future. What are the risks? What may not go to plan, and actually in advance have some level of contingency and some planning for those situations, so that when those situations do arise, it's not a shock and you're getting stressed and, oh no, what we're going to do. You've actually got a plan already, and it takes the stress away. And hopefully by considering all these things, then you can move quickly and then ensure that you're successful. So that was one.
I like that one. That sort of hope is not a strategy. It's a famous saying.
Yeah. There's a lesson 192: reward achievements as quickly as possible. And I'll just turn to the page. The tip there: quickly reward those people who achieve, so that others may see the profit of doing good. There are a few lessons that touched on this topic. I think rewarding, if individuals are doing the same thing time and time again and rewarding staff for that, okay, that's fine. But if we can focus on rewarding individuals where they've done something exceptional, or something, there's a new situation has arisen, and the individuals showing some really good initiative and gone down a really good positive route, and that's a perfect situation to recognize that achievement. And don't recognize it many months later. You recognize it there and then, because that's where you're going to really get you're going to get most value from that. So that was a good topic.
I mean, you know that I've always said that yearly appraisals are a waste of time. It's, if you're going to appraise, you praise people in the moment for good performance. So that they've got to have, you've got to give people feedback of the good things they do, pick them up on the bad things, but appraise them on the good things, as quickly as you possibly can. Because troops' mindsets are quite short, so they're not thinking that far ahead. They're thinking they're using a lot of they're using a lot of reptilian brain function, so very short-term survival instincts. So their ability to think ahead isn't there, because they're in the moment all the time. So they need that recognition very, very quickly, because that's the part of the brain that is working. As generals, we should be thinking further ahead, planning and strategizing, and therefore we're able to wait a lot longer before we get our gratification. So as a shareholder, you wait till the end of the year before you get your gratification. As a director, you wait to the end of the quarter to get your gratification. As a manager, to the end of the month to get your gratification. For an employee, you don't really want to be waiting much more than a week. So yeah, good, like that one. Cool, good. So was that was hope and reward achievements equally. Brilliant. Good. Andy?
Okay, so probably the one, if I were to rank them, probably one of the higher ones is probably going to be 185, and also one of the ones where I did actually manage to catch which number it was, which was make allies from enemies, which I think is there's quite a lot that you can read into that in terms of strategic alliances and things like that, and potentially something which is, obviously because it's a book about war, a lot of it is very much win at the expense of your enemy, and a lot of the strategies are around making your enemy fail rather than making you succeed, if you see what I mean. Whereas if you're more coming from an abundance mindset within business, then actually really you don't want to be focused on making your competition fail. You want to be focused on making yourself successful. But to make allies from enemies seemed like a well-aligned lesson on that. And then the other one, and again I'm going to have to paraphrase here because I didn't jot it down at the time, and I don't have the number, but there was definitely a piece in there about the generals who avoid the war in the first place are actually doing a better job than the ones who are going out and winning all the battles and getting all the glory. And I think when we recognize people within business, there can sometimes be a tendency to recognize those who are they're running around firefighting, but they're the ones working late, and they're the ones having to do all these things at the 11th hour and pull off these dramatic achievements. But actually the guy who has planned ahead and never gets into that situation in the first place is they need just as much, if not more, praise than the ones who are just firefighting the whole time, but saving the day at the 11th hour.
Yeah, I'd say that's what I love about reviewing this, because I didn't pick that one up at all when I read it. But yeah, so true. It's the busy fool. If you take battle as being just doing the work, the person that avoids the sort of just running around, it often seems to be not trying, and a lot of business owners feel the sort of what's the word I'm looking for? When you feel guilty about not being busy, and therefore, a lot of people then go and make work for themselves. So, and then you start interfering with the team and getting the team's way. Whereas, the general's job is to actually have planned and said, right, everything's working, great. I'll go off and do something else then. Good. So avoid the busy fool syndrome. So generals avoid war, do better. Yeah, like that one. So, and the allies from enemies. Yeah, I think the big thing for that is really that goes back to knowing what the game is. The game is not war. The game is big. War is just a part of the game that you're playing. And I think in that chapter he said, even the fiercest foes can unite and fight off a common enemy, but they will return to being enemies later. It's, if you know what the big game is, then you can work with competitors. Where, and I think what you said there was that abundant mindset. That if you go at this with an abundant mindset, and so it's not just about winning at all costs, it's about achieving a purpose. You'll open up to far more alliances than you ever would before. So, good, excellent. Sabrina.
Yes, right. I actually found this book quite a challenge for many of the reasons that you said at the beginning, Kevin, although listening to everybody speaking, I think it was a good decision because there's a lot of points coming out of this and different aspects of business. For me, I normally read first thing in the morning with a cup of tea and last thing at night. But this was quite a heavy book. And I have to say that taking a book to bed with you called The Art of War is not a particularly good idea. However, I battled on, forgive the pun, and I picked out 19 lessons, some of which have already been mentioned. But my top two, well, not top two, but I think the two I'll mention first. Close to 168, which was Ranjit's about loyalty of the troops, was lesson 170, which was the 6 types of poor leadership. And we have sort of touched on this already. Rashness, I don't think we're so guilty of. Promoting weak officers, poor recruitment and training. And in that sense, I realised that, you know, our supervisors could do with some of them have been on it, but it was a while ago. So we need to do more of that. Tolerating ill-disciplined officers. Well, one springs to mind that we've had for some time, but we are actually going through a disciplinary at the moment. Aimlessness, well, 3 words explain that, lack of goals. Now, since we've had Kevin on board, we've got a lot better at that. And poor decision making. I have to say that where somebody's mentioned it earlier about nepotism, we are a family business, and I think we have always struggled in that sense. It's great to have the support of the family, but when it goes wrong, or when you try to go off on different tangents, it's not quite so good. The tip was never fight against a force too big, no matter how good your troops. Now, I actually find that slightly difficult to understand because we are meant to be reaching for the moon, and if reaching for the stars, and if we hit it, we get the moon. So I'm not sure what he means by against a force too big there. Appoint strong officers. Yes, well, we've touched on that. Give everyone a clear vote. Make sure the troops are well trained. Do not let people act independently. Kevin will chuckle at this one. Make sure the person in overall command is up to the task. Yes, I think we have a challenge in our business, and possibly I would include myself in this as well. There are times when we can be a big asset, and there are times when we can be a weak link. So that was 170. Yeah,
good. So your point there: never fight against a force that is too big, no matter how good your troops are. Has anybody got a thought of that, relating it back to business?
Pick a battle you can't win.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's more. I would say that's what, as Ranjit pointed out, that's more about actually fighting a war, which is more about, obviously you're going to die if not, but it doesn't quite transpose into business. But I suppose, as I said, my analogy is don't start something that you know you're going to fail at.
I kind of looked at it in terms of sort of market research and competitor research. So being realistic about the situation. Obviously, if you're going to an incredibly crowded market, you're going to have a poorer chance than if you're going into, you know, a new niche where there's relatively little competition. So that's kind of how I read into it.
There was a related point in that in that lesson as well, wasn't there? Which was essentially don't obey if you know you're going to fail. So when you're being told what to do, it's okay to not obey if it's the wrong decision.
I mean, a lot of this is just, there are fine balances, aren't there? It's really sort of making you. It's not just you just follow this black and white. You know, you've got to think of these situations. So, you know, follow orders, but only to a point. You know, so it really is empower. You know, again, I still have to pinch myself to say this was written over 2,000 years ago. You know, and it is, you know, it's still so true now. But you know, in the light of 2,000 years ago, where people were just, you know, forced to do things, you know, you're just coming out of, you know, sort of the Egyptians and slave labor, and you know, no such thing as human rights and things back then. You know, but it was really saying, you know, look, and a lot of the stuff where he says, you know, when you do win, be humane in your victory. You know, don't go and pillage, and you know, bring your conquered people on side. You know, so it's a very, very balanced approach on this. So and yeah, I think all those points are good. You know, don't go into a, you know, don't set goals in effect that are too big. You know, that you just you know you're going to fail. You know, no matter how good you are, there comes a point where, you know, you've just got to have a bit of realism in there. You can dream big, but don't go into the war. Don't start the battle. Don't start the journey unless you're really well prepared. So, I mean, I just thought, you know, 170, you know, that in itself is a book in its own right. You know, those six things. You know, go back to, you know, Brad Sugar's, you know, 6 keys to a winning team. You know, it's a lot of it is within that. You know, same thing. So, okay, what was your second one, Sabrina?
The second one that I'll say now was lesson 111. Establish clear communications. Yes, now establish clear communications. And there was another one a bit further on, which I didn't note, but which was talking about not just verbal communications, you know, have good communication systems. So direct systems, not just the verbal ones, but how you do things as well, processes that can't be misinterpreted or intercepted. That's more of a battle thing rather than, but misinterpretation, we're very good at that, I'm sure. So there's certainly, we should be looking at that. And something that I thought where it said not just verbal, okay, it was talking about the wind in battle. Well, we don't have wind in the pack house, but we've all been wearing masks recently. And it's been a lot harder to hear what people are saying, and people tended to shout, and you can pick up on the wrong vibes if people are shouting, and it's been a different sort of challenge. But I know that in our organisation, we often fall down on communication, and it's something that I don't think you can ever over communicate, really.
Yeah.
Something that might be obvious to one is not obvious to another. And the more that's actually written down and put up front and displayed on notice boards and doors and whatever, that's all good.
And I think, yeah, that moves on to 114, you know, use signals to inspire, you know, signals not only for communication, but for encouragement. You know, we're often not good at actually getting the good news out to people. You know, we're quite happy to sort of, you know, get the bad news out and pick people up when they do it wrong, but we're not great at actually celebrating the wins and successes of the business on a regular basis. Cool. Damien, I know you didn't get all the way through it, but was there anything in the first bits that you read that cropped up?
I think it's just my main focus was really on chapter 1, and it was about the preparation and the planning, and really brought alignment with the 90-day plan, and just making sure you've got all your ducks in a row, and you're thinking through things and you've prepared.
So this was my take on laying plans. You know, the way was where we set vision, values and purpose for the company. So being really clear where we're going to go, what we're trying to achieve. Heaven is the external conditions, so that's the economy. So you've got to look outside your business and think what's happening out there. So at the moment, heaven is in turmoil. You know, there's loads of stuff going on in heaven. You know, So there's, you know, so if you think about that, there's, you know, massive thunderstorms going on. You know, is this a good time to attack? Is this a good time to go in battle? Well, for some, it's not. You know, some should be just, you know, hunkering down and waiting. For others, this is the perfect time to attack. You know, heavy rain and thunder and things is great cover to get out there. The earth is the territory, so that's a bit close. That's your industry that you're in. Okay, so, you know, what's going on in your industries? So again, you know, it's certain industries are doing really, really well at the moment. Certain industries are not doing great at all. You wouldn't want to go, you know, well, potentially, you know, would you want to go and sort of, you know, start a restaurant at the moment? You know, start an events business at the moment? Yeah. Some people might say, no way, that's far too risky. Others will be looking and say, actually, this is a great opportunity. Everyone else is in turmoil. You know, I can jump ahead of the market really, really quickly now. So, Commander is... Sorry, David?
I was just, with your analogy there, you could argue that with the lockdown about to end in the UK, it possibly is a great time to start a restaurant. Yeah. But yeah, it's understanding your strategy.
And the other, you know, and that comes back to preparation. If you're prepared, then any conditions could be good conditions. But you can't just go into, oh, I'm going to start a business up without looking at the way, the heaven, the earth. You know, making sure, you know, the commander is your leadership. You know, are you a good leader? Have you got good leaders within your organization? And then method and discipline is your organization and team structure. Yeah, and
there's a point in there about rewarding success and failure with equal measure.
Yeah, yeah, that's it. It's, you know, and too many people sort of over worry about failure and over success about success. You know, oh, we had a brilliant year this year. Yeah, haven't we done really well? Well, if you really look at it, you know, why did you do well? You know, what was the reasons why? Was it down to you, or was it just down to, you know, external conditions just allowed you to be successful? Yeah, and those that aren't good, you know, they'll win the battle that particular month, that particular year, but they won't win the war because when the conditions change, they're just not prepared.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think, excuse me, the other one with, where was the 7 conditions? I didn't write the chapter number down. 7 conditions. Yeah, for that.
Is that the is lesson 8, weigh up the 7 considerations? Is that the one?
That's it, yeah. Yeah. 7 considerations before committing to war. So which side has more positivity? Better leaders, better position, better discipline, strength in numbers, better trained troops, better set of internal rules. So, you know, again, it's almost like, rather than thinking I'm going up against somebody else, it's am I good enough? You know, on my own internal, you know, have I got the right numbers? Have I got the right resources around me before I really push forward on this business? And I do like the, you know, to create the war room. I think that was a really good one for me. Was you know, you've got to have a command center somewhere where, you know, you go to actually think about your battle, think about your strategy. And,
but I also like the point that it kind of plays into what Sabrina said about don't go into a war kind of easily. Think, is it the war you want to fight?
Yeah. Yeah. And we get this all the time with you know, employees that leave, you know, bad customers. You know, there are all wars that we could enter, but sometimes you just got to say, look, is this worth going into? you know, it might morally it might be the right thing, but I think he said in one of the other oh, this one here, you know. So where are we? Just the next chapter, wasn't it? Waging war. Don't attack someone just because they made you mad. You know, just because somebody's dissed you or an employee's done you harm, or a customer's done this, you know, really consider whether you want, whether that war is worth fighting.
Yeah.
And that's why you've got to have that bigger purpose, that bigger goal, because that's what you go back to. Is this battle going to help me achieve my purpose? Or is it just something that I'm going down fighting a battle that I might get there and win it, but at the end of it, you know, I've just burnt resources, burnt troops for the sake of it. Yeah, I think it was, I'm not great in war history, but I think that was one of Hitler's issues, wasn't it? You know, when he was fighting, he said, don't fight on two fronts. And his ego just said, no, we're going to go and crush the Russians, and continued and just burnt all of his troops, fighting in Russia. So any others around sort of waging war?
Yeah, the 25% non-combatants, that was quite interesting. Yeah. It's like, it's basically your admin support, right? For all your fee earners, you need to have non-fee earners or a certain percentage. I'm finding that now, because we're spending time on things that maybe we wouldn't have to, and I can keep my troops focused on the war rather than and doing what they're good at, which is fighting, as opposed to admin tasks.
Yeah, that was just a sort of real, because I've talked about it before. Within organisation structures, as you grow, you get to a certain point where you've got to put in some support staff. And his where was his? Oh, it was the energy one, wasn't it? Where was energy? Power, scroll of power 96. Yeah, so lesson 64. The scroll of power. Of energy, yeah. So and that came into that multiples of 5. So you're building your armies around five reports. Okay, and if you those that have done this with me, when I do the organisation chart, that's what I always talk about. It's a team of 6. Yeah, so the managing director, marketing director, sales director, operations director, finance director, HR director, team of 5. SAS was built on the same concept. You built teams of 5 and 6. You build it to 8. You split it into 2 4s. You build it back up to 6. Because they've done work, since those days, that our capacity to deal with relationships starts to go wrong after 6 people. It's harder and harder. It's called I did write it was in my book, but it's this sort of law where every relationship, there's actually 3 relationships going on. So it's a power of 3 every time you add a person to it. So by the time you get to 6 people, you've got around about 200 relationships going on. And then you add the 7th person, you end up with about 1,000 relationships. So it's this factor of saying you build it around fives, and then you take the fives and you put a commander of the five sectors. So now you've got 50 or 25, and then it just goes up and up and up. So that's the way you scale your armies on that. So and then you need your 25%, which is your one person to support a team of 5. So. Oops, lost me. Let's go back to there. Okay. I'll just go back to this because I can't manoeuvre my way around. I don't manoeuvre my way around, it's manoeuvring. Good. So, Ranjit, what was any others that stood out for you? We get to waging more, wasn't
it? They are a bit repetitive, but it was 132, which was recognized. Oh, sorry, 1/8. Yeah, 132, which is recognize what you do not have to do. So we kind of covered that, which is what do you not have to do. Sometimes we get fixated on things that we probably don't need to do, that probably aren't in our master plan, probably are quite ancillary or quite irrelevant, but we attach too much time to those pursuits. So the roads that don't need to be traveled. There was lesson 67, which is a bit more like philosophical, but it was the only limit to your tactics is the limit of your mind.
Yeah.
So that sometimes as an owner, you're the biggest constraint, which obviously then fits in with your war room principle.
And creating time to think. You've got to get time to get off the battlefield, go into your war room, sit with your generals. You have to do this stuff. You can't just keep being down there fighting on the ground. So, strategy of attack. So these are my sort of top points from there. So understanding, are you attacking, defending, retreat, and they're all acceptable strategies. A lot of people see retreat as being a negative. Actually, retreat is a strategy. It's if you do it with purpose, everything is the right thing. So in business, sometimes actually scaling back down is the right strategy. Laying people off is the right strategy. Okay, defending, staying as we are, not growing, not pushing forwards. The conditions are not right for us to do that. We've just got to hunker down, make that decision and do it. Yeah. Other times it's attack. The conditions are right for us to move forwards. So don't think, and a lot of people get, disillusioned. I've built this business up and it's, I'm doing 2 million, I'm employing 40 people and something's happened and now I've got to lay people off. They see that as a negative. Having done that once with taking a sort of £4 million business back to 250,000, in 3 months, I've done it. But that was the strategy that was right. That was the strategy that kept the business going and allowed us then from there to grow again. We came back, the business is still there, that we kept the integrity of the business and then we move forward. Okay, so sometimes they're not easy decisions to make, but sometimes they're the right decisions. Preservation is better than destruction. Train your managers. That's his sort of famous saying. If you know your enemy, know yourself. really understand, spend as much time understanding the market you're in, learning. I think the key lesson really through this is you've got to keep learning. The conditions are changing all the time. Yeah, and if we're constantly just fighting, then we miss out on these things. So understanding the timings. So get the team to know why they're fighting. I think we talked about that one. Yeah, I think we did that one. Basically, should not be mistaken for excellence. Victorious army wins victorious before seeking a battle. Back to the hope. We did that one, I think, which is good. Yeah, so this was, where was this? I should have put the bloody numbers in. It's foolish of me. Observing patterns. That was quite a good one. We said 158. That 158. Found that, but so measure the land, review the economy, estimate the type of forces, the roles we need, calculate the troops, budgets, compare armies, check your return on investments, assess victory. How are we going to measure these things? So again, all of these concepts are true within sort of battle and running our businesses. The pyramid of command, so we talked about that. Multiples of 5. Mixed troops. Getting weak and strong troops together. Often we put all the good troops in one place. Okay, so really, understand where your people are, how good your people are. I don't think we often in a busy business we don't spend that time really talking about our people, how good they are, where are the weak ones, what are we doing with the weak ones to make them better, mixing them up, putting them together, get them to learn from each other. It's hard when you're a small business, but as you grow, you've got more people, mix those people up. We talk about disc profiles, don't we? Mixing disc profiles up so you get a better balance of people. So deception, that was quite a good one. Manoeuvring, signals, build team to split and reunite. Bring teams, you get a lot of challenges in businesses with silos. So you want to be able to split them up, reunite them, get them working together. You mix them up, mix operations with sales, marketing with operations, get finance involved, get really mix that team up so they really bond and build strong relationships with each other. So hasty temper, high standard of honour, excessive compassion for the troops. There was a theme through this of being sort of compassionate but not too compassionate. It's that fine balance between the two is a real key thing with this, and that is hard. It's often you'll go too far one way, you'll be too hard, you'll be too soft. You've got to keep reassessing. Was that the appropriate behaviour? Did I get the results that I was after? I think that's one of those things you just learn from experience. So, Steve,
I think that's quite an interesting one where he said treat your troops like as if you're their parent and they're your children. I thought that was quite a good analogy, because obviously if you spoil your kids, then they just end up being lazy and unruly, basically. But if you're constantly blaming them all the time, then they're going to resent you. So it's
Yeah.
I thought that's quite a good analogy.
Yeah, and how easy is parenting? I'm not a parent, but you know, I'm told it's not that easy. Looks easy from where I sit. But yeah, it's that balance between firm and discipline. You know, but be prepared to discipline them, but on the other side, be prepared to reward them. You know, and work with them. I think I might have that on this. So the definition of a bad leader, you know, reckless, overcautious, hot-headed, vain, you know, too compassionate. You know, these are traits. And when you read this, you think, you know, you look back on people you've worked with, you know, previous bosses you've had, people you know, and it's just so obvious, isn't it? You know, and again, I just have to keep pinching myself. This was written 2,500 years ago. You know, so we haven't really changed at all. We think we're sophisticated and, you know, far ahead, but no, we're just dealing with people. Didn't think that was particularly good, that one. So did anybody get to the terrain side of things? What's scroll on the on terrain?
Which one was that?
So the 9 terrains, 222.
Read it, but didn't really draw a whole lot of parallels from it.
Home ground, fertile ground. Yeah, I think that was the one that was I found the hardest to relate into business. I'm sure if you looked into a particular strategy, you'd probably find something in there. Did anybody come up with something they thought?
The only one that I picked up out of there we've touched on was lesson 196, accentuate the positive. To boost morale, always pass on the good news and keep the bad news to yourself.
Yeah.
Emphasize what they will gain from victory, but gloss over the harm that may befall them.
Yeah. 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 I think the latter part of that chapter was good. It was just the terrain, the 9 types of terrain. I did struggle to put that one into a business context. Yeah. Again, you know, he talks about poor leadership a few times through the book. You know, keeps coming up. So there's, you know, I think Andy, that was your one there. Know when to disobey orders. Place pride in people, but discipline them. You know, it is treating them like, you know, say treating like children, but I think it's how we should treat. You know, it's not about children. It's about we should treat everybody. You know, be proud, you know, work with them, help them, but if they're doing it wrong, you've got to give them feedback. You know, that's what people need, feedback at all times to know whether they're doing right or wrong. If they don't get feedback, it just reinforces whatever behavior is there. Sometimes that's good behavior, but often it's going to be the bad behavior. That was sort of the 9 situations. Yeah, I didn't. It was quite interesting, but I couldn't put that into business context. And then he did talk about the perfect leader, be calm. Unpredictability was quite an interesting one. Any takes on that one?
It put me in mind of Donald Trump's negotiations with North Korea. I thought that, you know, one of the reasons that he's making progress here is just because he's a completely loose cannon and anyone can do absolutely anything. And I think, you know, there are situations where that's an asset.
Yeah.
Probably about the only thing Donald Trump I go for. Yeah.
Yeah, he left everything on the table, didn't he? And so, in the same way, like that's what you can do. As soon as you start saying, "I'm not willing to do this, or these are my red lines," then that in itself excludes a multitude of options that you can take. you know, if I refuse to use, I don't know, social media or something like that, then I'm predictable.
Yeah, I think it's that being prepared, you know, to move quickly, you know, and come up with new ideas, and, you know, not just sort of get stuck in the same old way, you know, shake things up a little bit, you know, keep people on their toes. I think it's, again, there's always that danger you become too unpredictable and you just cause problems. You know, it's a bit like, you know, the loose canio. I think Trump is probably on the too far on that sort of, you know, just like an uncontrolled cannon firing off. So it's not being too sort of stuck in your ways, but not being too erratic. Just being a little bit unpredictable. So, oh, where did that come from? Just keep people moving forwards. Yeah, you are the brain and your orders are the nerve signals. That's quite a nice little statement. So make sure that those signals are the correct ones. You know, keep firing off, you know, random orders all over the place. You're just going to confuse the body. You know, make sure that you think about it and the orders are really precise, direct to get you, you know, what you need. You'll know within action we say true communication is the response you get. So if your nerve signal means your arm does this, you know, then you're sending the wrong nerve signal to that hand. So look at what you're actually sending. Anybody get anything out of attack by fire?
The one thing I wrote down on that is act on reason, not on emotion.
Okay. Yep. That's good. Yeah. Again, it goes back to that. You know, don't go into battle on the just because someone's annoyed you. You know, so really think about it first. Yeah, I struggled with that one about burning enemy soldiers.
I kind of related it to we poached somebody from a rival firm, and it kind of reminded me of that action.
Okay. I'm sure there are times where it does. I was running out of ideas on that one. Use of spies was another one that was quite interesting. On first glance, I struggled to relate it, but then I looked it back to this sort of statement here. Inside knowledge is valuable. You're prepared to pay a hefty price. So taking on that person from your competitor who's got the experience, you know, pay them. They're probably worth paying them a bit extra. And I looked at, you know, myself, you know, as a business coach. You know, part of my job is to be the spy. You know, I've been in business, you know, although, you know, for all the years, you know, you get the insider knowledge from me. Okay, so, you know, there are things, you know, buying knowledge is really valuable. You know, education, you know, reading books, you know, going on, you know, the BizX things, you know, this is what you need to invest in. Yeah, because if you don't, you'll pay a hefty price. If you don't do it, you pay a hefty price. If you do it, okay, you might seem a hefty price, but it's nothing on if you don't do it. Definitely agree with don't use a supernatural. That doesn't work. And basing decisions on intelligence, not guesswork. You know, that's why you need good people around you. That's why you need to continue to learn, because, you know, that knowledge is what you need to actually make better decisions. And I almost sort of ignored that whole chapter, but that one thing to me really does just reinforce, you know, and just says, look, you know, those people that do learn, continue to make time to do this, are the ones that do move ahead. So good. Any last comments? I know we've run over time a little bit today. So it was a big chunky book. any other final bits that came up that you want to share?
Just a couple of lessons I put together. Lesson 26 was gather your vehicles, and lesson 38, repair and replace equipment, because no army can fight on old stuff. And for years we had lots of old stuff, and since we've made a bit of money, we've been able to replace a lot of it. Not only does it improve your productivity, but also the morale of the troops.
Exactly. Yeah, they'll put up with a lot, but you know, if you can give them new equipment, it's amazing how it does incentivize them. So yeah, really good point. So good. So these are upcoming events. So the workshops, we had customer mastery workshop yesterday, so Ranjit enjoyed that one. And next one is time mastery on the 8th of April. Obviously BizX, please do let me know if you want tickets for that. Again, you can do the 2 days, or you get 30 days access to all those speakers afterwards, so it really is good value. I was thinking of the book. I've got a book in mind, but I just wondered if you guys had any particular area you would like to focus the next one on. Because I know last one was a little bit random, but is there any particular area? No? Damien?
No.
No?
No,
okay.
nothing.
Then what I'm probably going to do, I'll confirm this on Monday, but it's a book that we had another one of our guest speakers, a book called Brainstorming. So it's all about communication and where communication goes wrong in organisations. So I'm going to have a quick read of that this weekend, and if I think it's a good one, then we'll use that one for next time. So back to team, about communicating out, and hopefully help with the leadership side of things as well. So good. Well, have a good Friday, everybody. It's great to have you on the call. And we'll see you soon on the next book club at the it's 30th of April. So, and I'm sure I'll speak to you all before. Actually, I might speak to you before Easter. So have a good Easter when it comes. So it's an early one this year. So
Kevin,
good.
did you post me a hard copy of that, The Art of War?
I will. Yes. Yeah, is everybody up for the 30th? Because I'll just get Jane to get the books out to everybody then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, cool. Okay.
Yes.
Super. Have a great day and a good weekend then, guys. See you later.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Kevin.
Cheers.